For those of you who are familiar with our other presentations in different media, you know that this topic of fear is discussed not only in these YouTube presentations, but on the radio broadcasts as well, which is on WTBQ.com, and if you're listening live for it, it's on 93.5 FM and 11:10 AM locally here, which is Orange County and a little bit of northern New Jersey, but you can get it on your computer as well. And there are presentations of speaking of fear with our various panels that have been on it in these some 5 years of our broadcasting. And you also find fear being spoken of in the footletter of Notes Divine, the writings which are a clinical curriculum for healing. And I was asked, though, to please address this crucial issue which is so evident in humanity, in mankind. And so I agreed to do it, and I'm taking a crack at this once again in this presentation. What is the cause of fear? Well, let's look at why fear occurs. Fear is the result, an emotional state, of a fear of annihilation. Fear is a representation of a state in which you believe you can be annihilated. Now, there's two different kinds of annihilation. The first kind is physical annihilation. You can die, you can be killed, you get sick and you die, all those kinds of things. You're annihilated physically, wiped out, done this, was there, gone by, you're gone, and that's it. The emotional aspect of fear is an annihilation of your sense of identity. There is a loss of your feeling of yourself, an annihilation of yourself, an annihilation of your worth, annihilation of your respect for yourself. It is an annihilation of your sense of self. You've got nothing left. Now, let me tell you, that stuff hurts. I'm even putting the physical aside, because the crucial thing, the healing of it, is going to address both the physical. The fear, the cause of it, feels real. That when you enter into this state of fear, this state of what is an absolute horror, this state of a collapse, because there are levels of fear, but all of them relate to the fact that you're losing the sense of what your true self is. You've lost it. And I use myself as an example for it, because I have gone through my life in which fears have hit and had to deal with it, and it threw me into therapy, into counseling, in order to be able to find what was behind this, because I wanted it to end. And I'll describe for you my fear as well, so that you can decide whether or not it's related to your fears. And I do this often, for a very, very good reason, that when I can tell people that this doctor of psychology, that's what my license was in, although you see now that what I do is spiritual aspects of healing, that psychology did not complete it, that when I would experience this kind of stuff, people would listen and say, well, you had that, you're a doctor of psychology, and you have these feelings? And the answer is, yes, I have these feelings. There isn't a human being There is not a person in this world who does not have these feelings. The only difference is the variation or the intensity of how much they are permitted to experience them. And you're in worse shape if you are not permitted to feel them, because then you're dealing with some kind of an unknown thing, and you're in worse shape than those who at least know that they're afraid and are wondering, what can I do to get an answer to it? That's the range, that's the variety that we're talking about. There are very specific memories that I have of myself with fear. The sweating, the feeling that I haven't got it, that there is something about me that is less than what others have, that I'm a weakling, that I can be intimidated, that I have no sense of being able to sit up straight and be able to handle something without any kind of judgment about myself other than to try to handle the situation. They're all gone. And in their place is this quivering, frightened being that sees no answers to it and feels so slurmy, so slumpy, I haven't got better words for it than to use those kinds of words, so abject nothing, so ashamed of my weakness, so not wanting to even show this kind of thing to people when they would hit, so disgraced by it that I don't have an answer and that I can't see an answer to it, and yet I'm supposed to go on and keep living in this world with that kind of a feeling state about myself. No wonder I got driven in to counseling to look at this, and looked on this as a lifelong process to be able to understand the cause of it and to know what the cure of it was going to be. It was so bad when I would have these states, and you can call them panic attacks, call them anxiety, call them depression. Oh, there's all kinds of words that the healers of this world use for it. It is the loss of the feeling of worth. It is an annihilation of your sense of self. And when it hit me, it was so intense physically that I had to go to the bathroom and I would just let go of everything that was inside me. To put it in crude terms, what the dickens, I pooped my brains out. That it was so intense that I couldn't hold anything inside of myself. That everything would just let go. There was nothing inside me to hold on to it. I was just devoid. I was empty of any kinds of feeling of solidness, solidarity, essence about myself that could hold on, that everything was just drained out from me. And when I explained it with the people in the years now that I volunteer, I've been retired for 20 years, that in the people when I describe this thing, I say to them, everything came out of me that wasn't attached to a bone. That's the only thing that stayed inside me. It was attached. But if it wasn't attached, it was coming out. That's how complete it was, how nothingness I felt about myself, that I couldn't hold on to anything. There was no being there that could hold on and be able to feel that there was a solidness about me. I was dissolved. Am I using words that you can recognize? As I said, the world will call it panic attacks. Fear is fear. It is the absence of a feeling about yourself that you can be consolidated, that you can feel you can deal with something. It just melts you. It absolutely melts you down. And in the place, as I said, is this quivering protoplasm, this lostness, this desperation, this, because it caused with me, I remember, feelings of shame. I didn't want to talk about this except with my analysts, with the counselors. And what I would do is, thank God, they were available to me when these states would hit, because I depended on them to try to discover what's causing this stuff. How do you heal this stuff? And I never realized it, that these three dear hearts who permitted me to call when I was going through that state themselves did not know what was behind this. That it was actually a spiritual aspect, that there was a loss of my true identity, that there was another me which would be needed to find and to experience in order to deal with this human kind of fear. They didn't know it, but thank God I could call them, because they could put Band-Aids on me, that when they hit and I could describe it, they would be able to just try to bring me to a sense of reality about it. Now, you know, Bob, there are people who love you and respect you and you do wonderful good things, etc. And yes. And the thing, though, that just helped is that I could talk to somebody and be able to come out of this state, because they were describing some kind of a state which would remind me that there was something of worth, but it wasn't holding. It wasn't holding. And what, in heaven's name, could be a healing for this? And that's the subject of our next phase of this, of fear. Well, we're into part 2 about fear, the overcoming of it. In part 1 was the feeling of it, the experiencing of it, the cause of it. And it can occur under any kind of circumstance, this melting down, this feeling of annihilation. It can occur in relationship with a person close with you. It can occur in a marriage, that all of a sudden there's not a support for you in order to have a feeling of worth. Because one of the things that we do with fear in order to deal with it is to try to find a circumstance in which we don't feel it. And one of the ways we do that, we get married. That in order to feel a person who looks favorably upon us, that this can ward it off. Or when our children go into a rebellion and want their own entity, and we need children in order to meet the shortcomings of our own identity, and we restrict them, this is again where fear can occur. Or it can occur in a world, because this is a world of fear. That people who feel this annihilation of themselves, this wipeout of themselves, have only a couple of options to deal with it. Number one is to get depressed. And to just figure, if I get depressed enough, people will love me, they'll want me in some way, and they'll bring me out of the depression. Or you can't stand the feelings, and so you use substance abuse, drinking, drugs, just in order to turn the feelings off, to self-medicate yourself, in order to not have it for however long you can do that. It's like a denial of it. I just don't want to see it. It's a medical putting our heads in the sand in order to deny the feeling that it's there. And I never feel critical when I'm working with people who have used substance abuse as a way of warding off these feelings. I know what they're feeling. I don't blame them. They don't have another answer yet. But it's better that until they get that answer, that they don't commit suicide, because those feelings can drive you to suicide. That when you feel so scummy, so worthless, so ashamed, so nothing, so hiding myself, can't stand it, everybody looks upon me as just a disgusting, pathetic nothing, that can build up inside of you with an ultimate danger of suicide. And so people who use substances in order to ward it off, I know where they're coming from, and I tell them that they need to wait in order to get the healing that we're going to be talking about here. or worldly circumstances, you lose your job, unemployment, hunger, etc. All of these, again, or sickness, is an annihilation feeling physically, because this world is not a caring world. This world is a world of others serving ourselves because of all the rotten feelings that we have about ourselves, that will team up with others in order to try to ward off these feelings. So, knowing the fullness of what all of this is with fear, we now look upon the question, is there a healing? Is there a cure? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. There is indeed a healing for it. The existence of fear is within the human mind. But you have two minds. You have the human mind and you have your divine mind. It is only your human mind, this mind which knows nothing at all of the existence of a God who has made you one with your God, with your Creator, and who brings you the Creator's mind, the loving qualities that is there of yourself and of others. There is no awareness of this, and in the absence of that you are wide open, therefore, to the feelings of annihilation, that you can be wiped out. Be it physically, you can be wiped out, you can be killed, come by wars, etc. that happen, or the wipeout of your sense of identity. And you see the savagery that goes on. You go into a depression for it, or you take substance abuse, or you blame others for it. And that is the society that we build. It's them. It's the others who are this problem. They don't give a damn. They don't care about me. And we will not recognize that its feeling comes from us. We don't give a damn about them, because the human mind, this mind of fear, is strictly oriented to survive, survive, survive. That's what needs to be done when you're in the form of a bodily being. We are animals who have no awareness of what the afterlife is, no awareness of ourselves as eternal beings, no awareness of the presence of God. All of that is wiped out in order for us to make a world different from what God has made, and we are living in a world in which we are ignorant of the truth of what exists, of God's oneness with us. And what therefore now is going to become the way to overcome fear? I'll give you my prayer. Because when I discovered that there was a God, and that it was a God that could be spoken with, and that it was a God who wanted to help me to deal with all of this lostness, that there was a God that wanted to do this. There was a God that was saying, come home, come back to me, come to me, be with me. I know how to be able to help you. You're away from me, you're lost, let me bring you back. That I learned that when a fear hit, that I turned to God, and I had a number of ways of praying. Love, take me over. Love, I want you as me. I don't want me as me. I want you as me. Because this other me is one with God. And this other me feels the way God feels. And God made me to have godly feelings. God made me to see things as God sees them, and to handle them as God would handle them, be it about myself or other people or circumstances in the world. If I'm in trouble with myself, that I am having a disintegration, if I'm having a destruction, an annihilation of myself, that suddenly I'm wiped out, that I'm in some kind of a crisis which has gotten beyond me, and I don't have feelings at that point of how to heal it, at least I know one thing now, that I become aware of it and where to go. Lord, I hand myself to you to be able to handle these feelings about myself only as you would handle it. This is all that I want. And I pray this, and I pray this, and I pray this, and I pray this, and I pray this as many times until I have allowed God to open up inside me with the God consciousness, which then the human consciousness fades away at that point. That if I am in trouble with myself, this prayer, I want you as me, it's not that I'm looking for another me, I'm looking for the real me. I'm looking for the me that has no fear, that God created me complete, that God created me in the fullness of the vitality, of the joy, of the peace, of the love that exists between God and myself, which I am not feeling. And when I am not feeling the presence of God, what is happening is that I'm automatically in the state of fear. I am in a lessened format. I have no foundation to stand on except what I'm going to make up in my own mind. And since I'm living in a world in which I have chosen to push God away, have him in the background, no thanks, I'm going to make it on myself. I want to experience this thing and have substitutions for God. It's not there. And in that state, the state of the absence of the awareness of the presence of God, that only then can fear come in. It exists in the absence of knowing your godliness, and you need to be able to get that back, and you have to be willing. You have to have hit the place where you just can't stand those feelings anymore, and that you can turn to God and say, help. Or just stop, or feel despair, and that in itself is even a prayer. To know something's wrong, and you're giving God the chance now to be able to move on you. Or the fear is caused by your beliefs that other people are causing you problems. And now you can turn with violence upon other people. We create communities which are savage. Not everybody is blessed with medical care for themselves. Not everybody is blessed with having food on the table. That there are children that go hungry, millions of them in our country, thousands of them in the communities that we live. This is the communities that our survival-oriented mind makes. And so we turn with aggression. We've got to survive. They're in the way. Yeah, we'll take care of them. Minimum kind of stuff. Just keep them going, maybe to serve us. But I'm first. I got to make it. I got to have the biggest salary. They can't. And besides, they're undeserving of it. The human mind. It goes at these kinds of things. And in its place, instead of going to war, the expansion of an individual who doesn't like themselves, who joins with other people who don't like themselves and don't like others as well because of it, and doesn't see them as of worth, we can kill them because they're a threat to us. That's what fear does. From the moment of fear as an individual, you now join with others to go knock off the common enemy. And to be able to say, Lord, no, let me see the other person as you see them. Jesus made the point, love others as I have loved you. Well, you know what Jesus did? He was willing to let himself come into this world, suffer the killing of himself, in order to come back again and show that we are all beings who are eternal beings. He had to show us that we were souls, that this world was a dreamed up fantasy, a hallucination, an imagination, which only is shown to you when you just reach down and you can't stand the fears anymore. And God gets the chance to show you who you truly are, and you want that being because you know there's no fear in it. There's no fear. Now you become something different. Now you are a healer because God uses you to help others once you find out how you overcome fears yourself. And all you need is the prayer of, here, I quit. I will not go on with my definition of myself. You created me, Lord. I turn back to your creation of me rather than insisting on my creation of myself in the world I make. I want you. I see the horror, the misery. I want you as me, and to repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, until it fades. Because the presence of God is the healing of you. That this is the real you and everything else is a lie. It's a fraud. It's a fake. I'll give you a statement out of the footladder of Notes Divine that was said to me in November of 2013, and which is a theme song within me. God states, there is but one truth. There is but one truth. Ye are God's, and ye are loved. Ain't no room for fear in those definitions. Your God's, survival aspect is nothing. It's not an issue. Oh, you can lose your body, but you can't lose your soul. It wipes out the annihilation fear. And the second part of the annihilation fear is of losing the awareness of your essence, the definition of yourself. Ye are loved. Lord, I choose to see the way you made me. I choose to see myself as a God being, and I choose to see myself as love. I need your help to do it because this human mind of mine won't do it, and I will pray it over and over and over and over and over again, just like Jesus did in the Garden of Gethsemane when he was going to be arrested. He had to pray 3 times to shake off the influences of the human mind. And at his worst moment, in his last moments of this world, where suddenly his human head hit him as strong as it could and made him believe the insane thought that his Father had forsaken him. But the Holy Spirit changed the scene for him and said to Jesus, and Jesus took the Holy Spirit's technique, why have you forsaken me? He looked for the reason. Why does he have these feelings that he has been forsaken by the Father? He's unworthy of the Father. And from that he gets the feeling, I'm finished. It's done. He had completed it. His human mind, of course, was in error. And now the fear was gone because he now saw himself. He asked God, why have you forsaken me? And God showed him he was not forsaken. And he says, unto you I commend my spirit. And God at last had Jesus' permission to take him out of the world. God needs your permission to be able to show yourself to God and say, I hand myself to you. And God sets you up to be able to do it. Remember, you can't heal yourself with the human mind. Can't be done. God sets you up to be able to come to him and say, I want you. I want your help. I want you as me. Whatever it is, it's going to be the form of your prayer. The cause of fear, annihilation. Wiped out by the healing for fear. You're not annihilated and you're loved. And you can get either one of them when you go to God at the moment when fear hits, and it's going to hit you just like Jesus down to his last moment. But you can wipe it out every single darn time when it hits, when your human head plays and plays and plays. Because God doesn't knock off your human head. You wanted a human head, God lets you have it. But God can overcome, can counter what the human head does, and the fear fades. Over and over and over. And I rejoice even when I feel fear because I know I can go to God and I can get it out of me. Thank you, God, that this is the love that you have for your children. that you know how to be able to help them in their desperate lostness of the sense of identity and of their worth. Hope it's helpful to you folks. Thank you.